This week, Tim Donnelly is back. We talk about teamwork and making a game. We journey through the blind forest with Ori and crawl to the Darkside Detective. Sit back, relax, and get your gas masks ready because this is episode 44 of the Indie Game Riot. Indie Game Riot!
Hey everybody, it's Josh Nya, and this is Indie Game Riot, episode 44. Deuces, or Quattros, actually. Quattros. Gangster. How's it going, guys? Tim?
Well.
You shut up. Tim goes first.
Okay.
He's the guest.
It's going well. Like we were saying earlier, just a little bit ago, the Greenlight for Boss 101 is going fantastic. It's been a great week. We put it up last Thursday, and the response has been great. And I mean, we could talk a little bit about it here. I mean, I could expand on it later if you guys want, but just in terms of the way the Greenlight works. So here's the thing, I'm not even quite sure of how it works. You see some games like Crawl get on there, and then hours later they're greenlit. I think it is votes over time, but there's a percentage.
Crawl got a lot of publicity,
yeah. Yeah, you're given a percentage when you get on there, and it's the percentage how close you are to the top 100. So that's the percentage you start at. So in other words, you start at the bottom.
So you hit that top 100, and that's what makes you a go?
Okay, good question. Because we're like in the 40s of the top 100. So we're at 40 something right now. So we're into the top 100.
Okay.
And we're cruising towards the top of that. Now, I don't know what the cutoff is there. I don't know if that means we're already,
or maybe you have to spend like a certain amount of time in it, or
yeah, I don't think so. I think there's just this batch that they do that they go, okay, we're every week, every other week, or every month. I don't know. They'll say these many games in this list are going to be green. It could be 100, it could be 20, it could be 5. I don't know. I think it's a certain amount. But what I've seen,
it's kind of vague.
Yeah, it could be. I think if you were to get boom, like a ton of votes in like a few hours through, like I said, Crawl got greenlit in a day.
Well, they had like I said, they had huge amounts of publicity on like Rock Paper Shotgun and exactly. Polygon and all that sort of stuff. So
they had a ton of publicity, and they basically, I think because of that, their one-day average was so high that it triggered Valve's, hey, you're greenlit automatically.
Valve's like, well, money.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
So it's Greenlight. Now, the other flip side, and I think I mentioned this before, is I had a friend that he had told me about the way he got on Greenlight, and it took him months and months to do it. I think that there's a deal where no matter what as long as you're updating your page and you're kind of moving forward and it looks like you're developing it, you're going to eventually get greenlit, because I think they look at it individually and say, they have people that look at it and go, he's been on here 5 months and he seems to be dedicated and the game does look like it's improving, so let's just greenlight it and go. Because I do feel like, from what I'm understanding, unless you completely abandon the game, your odds of getting greenlit are pretty high. It'll take time.
It's probably like what Apple did first when like podcasts were just becoming a thing, or even like anything on iTunes and downloading music was this new thing. They were basically like, people are going to buy it. If you put it on iTunes, people will buy it. It doesn't matter if you've heard of it or not. There's going to be 15 people out there who are going to buy it, push it up a little bit higher, and people are going to keep buying it. So
yeah, I tried to find. I looked at like some greenlights, and I tried to find ones that were old and hadn't been greenlit for a long time, and I couldn't find too many that were more than 2 or 3 months old. That it seemed like most of them do seem to happen now. Whether that's good or bad is an entirely different discussion, but yeah. I was pretty confident that, we had a decent enough looking page. I mean, we were really happy with it, and I was really came down to the thing we were saying the night before we hit Greenlight. I was like, well, really what we're at now is how many people are going to like this type of game. It's not really a question of is the presentation there, because I felt like we made it look. We pretty much, like I said, if you look at that Greenlight page, if you look at Boss One's page and go,
yeah,
go ahead.
It looks like a store page.
It looks done. We made it as awesome as we could.
Well, yeah,
but that was,
I think your amount of activity too. I think that's probably at this point the most important part of keeping your trajectory up into you're in the 40s, you said. So
yeah, I completely agree. I think and it's legit stuff too. There's a lot of it's interesting. A lot of the questions were immediately about. We got a few about early access, like do we want to do early access? I'm against it only because the team is small and I don't think we could. To me, early access means you're doing.
People put a lot of faith in that.
Yeah, you're doing
consistent
nightly builds or certainly every other day, and you're very much like on top of the game. And if you're early in development, like I'll say, I look at guys like Vlambeer, and they're doing basically early access for Nuclear Throne for almost 2 years or a year or two now. I don't know how long it's been. That's a fucking lot of work. I
think certain kinds of games too do better in early access. I mean, just like an example, like Prison Architect, how long they've been in early access, but that's the kind of game that you have a game and all you can do is expand on it. You know what I mean?
Well,
so whereas something
DayZ is early access, right?
Well, that's another one that is a game, and then they just add it. Just
never
builds.
getting out of
that. They already had a game that was working, and they're just like, okay, let's add jeeps, or let's add a different rifle, or let's add a new town out here in the middle of nowhere.
Which is stuff you can do after you've launched. It's just called, hey, we added a patch. Everybody who bought the game gets new stuff.
DayZ is a complete different discussion.
That game is a great example of, I think, what people look at when they go, oh, that's what my early access is going to be like. I'm like, man, that's a good luck.
I'm sorry.
I just think that, so we're not going to do early access, and we're asked about things like multiplayer and co-op and stuff, which we don't plan to do for this one. And all the answers really come down to, it isn't that we don't want to do it. It's just splitting up our team. Our team just isn't big enough to do it right now.
Like, and see, that'll go into our discussion topic.
Yeah.
Down, I'm pointing down like you can see the notes out there.
The discussion topic, ladies.
Yeah. So Josh, what did you do this week?
What did I do?
Yeah.
Wow, I'm actually not going last.
No, you're not.
Oh, I was busy. I finally got the Adobe problem solved.
Yeah.
And finally have been able to get caught up. I'm almost 100% caught up. I've pretty much, actually, I'm only one episode behind, and that's going to come out very soon.
Which is
and
great.
This one should come out
on time.
Very close to on time, if not on time. I mean, I've been doing one per day pretty much. I think I skipped a day, but so yeah, finally caught up. And once I'm caught up, we should expect more articles other than from Tim. About games and news and things like that. So, keep an eye out. Finally getting that to work.
Yeah.
Also, I'd like to. I meant to do this at the top of the show. On our Patreon, we have a Patreon, by the way. Patreon.com/Indie Game Riot. Someone did actually become a patron, I guess, and on Patreon, if you don't know what it is, they kind of have like levels, kind of similar to Kickstarter, where you have perks and things like that. And that person picked a level where they get to basically advertise something on the show once per month. And I don't know who it is. I mean, I know the name, but I don't actually know that name. So first of all, I wanted to say thanks to Nathan H. for doing that, because you are awesome, and that's going to help us continue to grow Indie Game Riot. That's going straight to the show. And I haven't gotten any message back from you, so this is just your shout out. If I don't get a message back from you, this is your shout out. But I definitely want to give you your perk. So send us a message on Patreon or anywhere to give us your little advertisement. So this could be you, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to help Indie Game Riot. Patreon.com.
Top of the show.
That's Indie Game Riot.
Awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Tech.
Yes. So I've been having chair trouble, and it is like 90% fixed.
90%.
So this is
first world problems, ladies and
This
gentlemen.
is the third chair I've had in the last month. The first chair I had ever since the show started, and way before that as well. And that one was just, what was it? I don't know. I just kind of wanted Tim, what are you doing?
Stories. Go on.
Oh, okay. So it was just getting old and worn out. So instead of going out and buying a new chair, because computer chairs are like ridiculously expensive, I grabbed one from another part of the house that was being used in another computer. And then about 3 days after getting that, 2 of the wheels break off. And I try to get them back on, and every single time I sit down and try to move it, it's just break off. So they'd be stuck into the carpet and just all this bad. It was awful.
Was it being used on a computer built in the 1960s, and it was just sitting there the whole time?
No, it's a relatively new chair, and it was actually pretty comfortable too. It's just like, and then I broke down, and this chair, it's like a brown like leather, and the reason why I say it's 90% good is because this was like I had to IKEA this, basically. It's not from IKEA, but I had to put it together myself, and I'm good with that, and I did it in like 15 minutes. But it sits.
He's good with
like
that.
This.
With the broken wheels.
It sits a little bit. It sits a little bit to the right.
Right.
And
it's
so like
now, see, when you say the IKEA thing, we're in our heads. Everybody either thinks one or two things. They either think you just screwed on 5 wheels and that's it, or you actually sewed the leather on. So what level in between did you work on?
I had to attach the wheels, put the back and the arms and the seat together, attach the bracket to the bottom of the seat. And that's pretty much
the best thing.
Like the piston and everything, it was pretty easy.
Crossing my fingers. I hope to God at some point during the show that your chair snaps and you just fall over, Family Guy style. I will lose my shit.
It's solid. I
assume. Are we seeing a guy who's using a plastic? If there's carpet there, are you rolling a little plastic?
No, he's rolling over all of his wires.
I had one of those, and I had it for so long that I wore holes into it.
Yeah, I did too. You just get a new one.
I don't like those things.
I haven't gotten around to getting a new one yet.
When they sell them still.
Well, when you fall on your face, we'll wake you up with an Indie News Injection.
Are you bored with the same old games?
Yeah.
Why, then give yourself an Indie News Injection.
Thanks, Indie Games.
This week, starting off the Indie News Injection, we are talking about a game that we first featured in Free Fun a while ago. But now you can pay money for it and all of the next installments of the game. We're talking about Lakeview Cabin. I
think we talked about that like in the single digits. I just thought about that.
Yeah, early.
That was a long time
on.
ago.
Yeah. So you can now, you can also Steam Greenlight them, by the way, if you didn't know. They are on Steam Greenlight. And as we know, Steam Greenlight is kind of cool, Anyway, we talked about that. We always talk about that. You can buy the Lakeview Cabin Collection for $9.99 right now, and it's the Lakeview Cabin game currently, and then all access to all of the upcoming episodes when released for Windows only, completely DRM free.
When you say you can buy the Lakeview Cabin Collection for $9.99, you sound like one of those Time Life infomercials.
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
I will say that this is a really bold move because it was a free game, and now they're like, pay money.
Well, they've added a lot to it.
They did add a lot to it.
And I mean, it's not that uncommon. I mean, people do that. I mean, look at, remember, what was it? Ninja, what was it? Shadow. You remember what I'm talking about?
No.
That one game, it was, just, go ahead.
Okay, But at the same time, you do get access to all the future episodes of the game. So I guess I don't know how long this is going to be up, depending on how long it takes for them to get other episodes. But the first one was pretty good. Obviously, we talked about it.
What kind of game is it? I saw the video.
It's a horror game. It's pixelated horror, and you can play you play the original free version on Newgrounds, itch.io, and Game Jolt, I think.
Sure.
And first of all, I actually have a Let's Play. I did it twice. It's a big learning curve because it does not hold your hand whatsoever. You just have to figure it out. But it scared the shit out of me. I screamed.
It's like a little side scroller,
you would think that
the level that you play in the original game is like that big. You literally cannot go anywhere. And there's like 3 buildings maybe that you can go into, and it's just 1 room per building. That is it. And you have to figure it out. Yeah, and I screamed like a little bitch the first time the scary things happened.
Yeah.
But these
Indie Game Riot and scary things.
Yeah, I'm the only one that's... Well, actually, you did play Hector. I'm proud of you.
I recorded it.
Yeah.
I recorded it.
Yeah, Pixar didn't happen.
So you played the new one, though, right? This new one that's out.
I have.
No. Good.
No, this is like an expansion on the original. What it is, basically... He's talking about Hector he played, because he's...
Yeah.
Okay. We're 2 out of the 3 hosts of this show are known to not do well with horror games. Well, actually, three out of 3, but I'm the only one that'll subject myself to it most of the time. But anyway, it's an expansion on the original game, and they take a lot of, I guess, cues from some classic horror movies. I mean, they even mentioned here like Evil Dead, Friday the 13th, The Hills Have Eyes. Whatever you do, don't go to the cabin, which is, of course, a staple in horror, a trope, to say the least. But when you first play the game, especially when you go into it not knowing much about it, when I played the original game in Let's Play, I knew there was something not good about the game. Like, I knew something bad was going to happen, but I didn't really know what exactly. So I went into it with very little knowledge. I was like, okay, I'm on an island in a lake. There's a cabin. Nothing is happening. I even went into the cabin against horror movie rules. Nothing happened. And like an entire day-night cycle happened. The next day happened, and it didn't until like the second night. Finally, something happened. I had no idea what to do. It's really off-putting because you're like, okay, well, this is literally just me walking around picking stuff up. What it looks like this new one is adding even more horrific things to it. I mean, even just from screenshots when you're looking at it, I mean, it looks like there's like a million ways to die, to be honest. I see a wood chipper. I see a box hanging over a dead body. I mean, the guy...
It's a lot more content.
From the original game, because that's what we have experience with, or at least I do. I know that this guy he knows how to pace it out, especially for this kind of sized game. I mean, it's always impressive to me for someone to take, for instance, Papers, Please, would take a very small, this is the game right here. Yeah. You're not going anywhere else, and make it this entire experience. And this guy did the similar thing, and the fact that I know he knows what he's doing. It looks like there's going to be a few more characters in this as well, so there's a lot more to do and interact with and things like that. But I believe it's going to be the same kind of lack of hand-holding, trial and error, everything like that, and probably a lot of people are going to be looking for walkthroughs, to be honest. Multiple different ways it could end, most of the time in death. So basically, we just wanted to let you know about it in the news because we talked about the free version. But go check it out, Lakeview Cabin. It is by what is his name? Hypno Hustler. There we go.
Yeah. And you can also support it on Greenlight. And speaking of Greenlight, we've got another little fun fact about Greenlight, which is very convenient that Tim is here. Yes. Because Boss 101 can now be greenlit on Steam.
Yes. Any yes vote is appreciated. It's been, like I said, it's been a great week. It isn't, I gotta say, Greenlight wasn't quite what I expected. Because they don't really explain anything about, there's no rules given to you whatsoever. It's much like this cabin game. You just given, and you just kind of go, okay, am I going to fall in the chipper or not? I don't know. Let's wait till the next day. At the end of the week, everything seems okay. Dear Diary, I'm all right. We're alive. Nothing as bad has happened yet. It's been one of those things where, like I said, there's no what you're given. So as the creator, I don't think the public has access to the stats page, but basically there's a stats page each person gets, and it just shows how many people have visited, and you can hook up Google Analytics to it, so you can actually see where people are coming from and what websites. So if you have maybe, are they coming from my own site? Are they coming from my Twitter account? Where are they coming from? But there's all you get are these two things. There's two percentage how close you are to being in the top 100, and then once you're in the top 100, where you're at in that. But there's no indication that any of that is getting you any closer or farther to the green light. All you are is just marching towards a light. Like, you're just heading towards a light at the end of the tunnel.
A green light.
Yeah, a green light, and hopefully it's not a train that's attached to the other end coming towards us. So it's like, it's like we've been doing it, and like I said, very positive, been active on it. But man, it's funny because I'm just going, like, I look at other people and they're like, yeah, you guys are doing really well, and you should be greenlit, no problem. Like, and I'm like, okay, that sounds great. Hey, for us, it doesn't matter because the game we're not releasing the game next week anyway. It's like, it's going to be out in late July. So we knew there was going to be a lot of time, and we wanted Steam, which is great. We wanted to build our community on Steam because we've been building it on, like, IndieDB and our website and various places. The problem with all those places is they aren't where you're going to buy the game. You're going to have to send somebody somewhere. And so we thought, well, let's get on Steam Greenlight when it's nice, and then then we know when the game is released, somebody will go, oh shit, it's here, like on my wish list, or it's on my tracking list, now I'll just buy it. I mean, that's the ideal situation, right? Somebody just goes, oh, here's that game I've been waiting for, here's that thing, I've been following their dev blogs on Steam, because we could put all our stuff on there. It's great. It's actually really cool. Like, they did do that right. You can do announcements and posts, and you can comment on it. So cool.
So what would your opinion be on, I think we talked about, I don't know if we talked about it last week or 2 weeks ago or whenever, but about Steam basically completely changing Greenlight in a certain way. And they were really vague about it. They were basically talking about how Steam Greenlight is really bad and it's not doing anything good, and they want to, like, completely change it or remove it.
It's doing good. It's just doing
a lot of people.
It's just a lot of people are taking advantage of it.
That's if you go on, do some research, because I did this last year, 2014, when we were thinking about going on Greenlight. I found articles going back as far as December 2013 and certainly January 2014. There was a big talk, I don't know if it was at a GDC or something, where Valve was specifically mentioning, we're going to redo Greenlight. It isn't quite wanted it to be. Now, that was over a year ago.
And then they just did it again this GDC.
Yeah, they brought it up again. So, and they're old, and I think what they're talking about on Greenlight is just, you pay $100 to get on Greenlight, and that's sort of your barrier of entry. That's it.
Oh, so you have to pay to get on Greenlight?
$100.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you do not get on there for free. However, once you pay that $100, you could create as many Greenlight projects as you want.
Okay, so it's only a one-time entry fee.
One-time entry fee.
All right.
You're essentially paying to get... And I think the reason they did that was just to stop an average schmoly, guy.
It does weed out a lot of, like, I'm going to make it.
$100 is just enough to sort of stop a casual, if it was $5, that's nothing. If it was obviously, and everybody's on
the iOS App Store games. The clones and all that, yeah. Okay.
And I think even now, though, there's the people, there's a lot of backlash against, and it's one of the reasons, again, we're not doing early access. The companies that get on there, get greenlit, or, indie developers, whatever level developer, it doesn't really matter. They get on there, they put their game up for early access, and then they just sort of sputter along and barely develop it. Even if you get 5 people to pay $10, that's still 5 people that you basically are going to expect that game within a reasonable amount of time, or basically say, show me regular progress so I understand my money didn't get wasted. And of course, the excuse I see from developers is always, well, it's a complicated process, you people wouldn't understand, you got to give us our slack, don't bully us so much. And I mean, I've been there, and I know that for the most part, it's a lot of BS. I mean, you don't take people's money unless you're willing to give them a product that you sell, right? Like, I'll sell you an apple for $5. The guy gives you $5, you're like, well, I'm still growing the tree. You don't mind the wait, do you? Be a little bit here. They mature in about 5 years. So, nobody wants to hear that crap. If somebody had said beforehand, hey, this early access game isn't going to be out for 3 years, everybody knows you probably wouldn't buy it. Like, if a lot of times, unless it's maybe DayZ, where you're like, it's already a game, like, fucking who cares, I'll play it.
Yeah.
So, I think they want to change that. I mean, that would be the thing I would guess they're trying to address. I don't think there are a lot of other problems.
But they were talking about making it more, and this is what confused us, they want to make it more user-driven, which I thought that was the whole... Well, I guess actually, because you were mentioning the whole process of Greenlight, is that you think maybe someone in Steam is just like, okay, let's take a batch of games from the top 100. So maybe that's the case. Maybe they want it. They want it to be more community driven, where it's basically they're not even running it. They want it to everyone on Steam to be the ones running it, which a lot of people confuse us because I feel like isn't that the problem? Like,
there clearly is now at the top level of greenlighting. There is somebody at Valve or a group of people at Valve and that do say, okay, this is now hit the certain parameters we have, and we're going to greenlight it. So there is clearly a non-manual process right at the end. Like, I don't think it's automatic. And you're right. If it just turned into like they handed it over to the hordes, I don't know. Good or bad. It's hard to tell.
I think it'd be fine, but if there was some way, like I can't think of an idea, but if there was some way for them to limit the exploitation of the voting system. I mean, you know what I mean? You can literally go and buy a robot probably to just go click, click, click. Or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you could look up click farms, and you could definitely get votes on Greenlight that way if you wanted to. I'm sure that there's...
I mean, no one's going to buy your game, so what's the point? But
yeah. Well, there's a problem with that, is that in the end, and I think Valve is trusting the reality of, capitalism, which is you can go out and maybe get a million clicks or whatever they say, but as you guys said earlier, just people being interested doesn't translate to giving you money.
Exactly.
Like, you can walk down the street and say, hey, would you like a flying car? And everybody's like, yeah. But then you go, okay, each car is going to cost $5 million. They're like, well, fuck no, I don't want a flying car.
Yeah, exactly.
To be honest,
like
most
this
games
movie, and I totally want to see the sequel, and like everybody loves it, but no one goes to see it.
Yeah, I gotta like the majority of games. Most of the games that we talk about on Steam Greenlight, I'd be willing to buy, or if I haven't already bought. But the majority of games when I'm just like scrolling through stuff just to vote, I'm probably not going to buy the game unless it's really intriguing. I'm just like, okay, it's not my kind of game, but I'll vote yes because it looks like they put a lot of hard work into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, just because you're getting the votes, it doesn't translate. But, I think most gamers are smart enough to realize that, for instance, Boss 101, there's a lot of passion and quality put into it. So I mean, that's what kind of makes it stand out, and that's what people are going to buy it for. So,
well, you just mentioned basically the point we're using to differentiate ourselves. I mean, we're really demonstrating as much as possible our passion for the game and our seriousness about the game. Because I think by saying things like, hey, we're here, we're doing our dev blog updates twice a week on there. We're doing, we're replying to people. We're basically showing them the progress of the game, and we're saying things like we're not going to do early access, and we've got a hard release date. And we're saying no to a lot of features because it's really easy to get people to vote when you say things like, yeah, we'll add multiplayer, maybe, and then they're like, oh, okay, well, fuck yeah, I'll vote for this.
Yeah, I want this game because I want to play multiplayer. Yeah, that it's development hell, and that's one of the ups and downs of
9 times out of 10. I don't even like multiplayer. It's just, I'm a very secluded gamer unless it's like with close friends. That's like a party kind of game. You know what I mean? But,
yeah, I either play games, like basically the only MMOs that I play, like multiplayer games that I play are PlanetSide, and then sometimes Minecraft.
Games tend to be a very personal thing for me. It's like my story, you know what I mean?
Speaking of story, Josh.
Yeah, speaking of stories, there's actually a game jam coming up. Or actually, no, it's already started. It started yesterday, and it's going to go through April 9th, called Twiney Jam. We've talked about Twine before, which is why I wanted to bring this up. It's being hosted on itch.io, or itch.io, whatever you want to call it. Basically, the whole point, if you don't know what Twine is, it's you make basically text-based games, and you create the games based on it's almost like a flowchart or a web.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So
choose your own adventure, sort of.
Choose your own adventure is a good way to put it. A lot of really interesting games. I mean, nothing that's going to be mind blowing unless it's like the next Harry Potter that you can interact with or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
which I guess is actually possible. Who knows?
Well, not in this jam.
Not in this jam, because this jam basically it's almost like the Twitter jam, but
yeah,
a little bit longer. Twiney Jam, they want you to make a Twine game. It's a very small Twine game, 300 words or less. Ernest Hemingway would be creaming his pants right now. Does anyone get that reference?
That's one sentence in an Ernest Hemingway book.
Thank you. Man, I must be a nerd. Anyway, yeah, so 300 words or less, create a Twine game, all text-based. The reason I also brought this up is, I mean, we were thinking about putting it as our discussion point, but we kind of changed it a little bit, but still kind of interested to touch on. It's just Twine is one of those programs that you don't have to have. You have to have like the most minimal amount of knowledge of how making a game works. It is literally like
know how this like
literally
program,
like this. If you do this, then this happens. That is, can't see my hands. If you do this, then this happens.
What a great! I didn't even know what this was until you guys just started talking. It's so fantastic, though. That's a great way to tell a story. I mean,
yeah,
that's storytelling in its prime. Like that's
not to rustle any bushes here, but also, I mean, just to give an example, I'm not asking for anyone's opinion, so shut your mouths.
No, don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it. Oh.
But Depression Quest, if you don't remember from Gamergate, was made with Twine. That's all I'm saying. But anyway, that's just an example. If you're like, oh, okay, now I get what you're saying, because most people know what that is now by now.
Yeah.
And there's a very strong Twine community. There's tutorials and everything like that. So you have a little over 12 days to make this game. So hop on it. If you don't know, this could be your first step. If you're ever curious or ever wanted to learn,
and
this could be your first step.
And if you've been playing Elegy for a Dead World, which is a game we talked about a while ago, you might have some ideas.
Yeah, you might have improved your writing skills with that game. Right now, there's it's been open for just about a day. There's already 7 submissions already. Toasts, Pick Baby, Hands, The Magic Book, Going Home Late Last Night, 32 Locks, and a love song for Alpha Centauri. Sorry. So go check out those Twine games. Keep an eye on it over the next almost 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
And or make it yourself. If you make a game, let us know. We'll go check it out.
Yeah. Definitely.
We'll go check it out. If we really like it, maybe we'll feature it.
And now for those, exactly.
Yeah.
So amazing. Golly, I mean, the level of like engines and stuff that are available for somebody to kind of create something cool. Holy crap! And Unity going free with all these games like
there's so many, and that's what I was talking about. As I was going to touch on before we changed it, but it's just the amount of resources open to people nowadays. Is free resources, not just resources, but free resources, and how accessible they are to different skill levels. It's amazing, and we wonder why there's so many freaking amazing indie games out there. And this is why I love doing this show.
It's made me want to relearn how to code some stuff, because I was like, in high school, I taught myself the very like entry level, like first 3 days of a class like C++, and like looking at all these things like coming out, I'm just like, oh hey, I can mess with Unreal, or I can mess with Unity. I need to learn how to code so I can do that. And it's just like
you should. It's great. What a deal too, because what I'd love to see is it continue and just really bring in people, because I feel like there must have been a time, I don't know when, that art and writing and certain things were like that, where it was made accessible to everybody. In other words, art supplies dropped to a certain amount that maybe people thought they could just buy, or writing, the Macs came out and everybody could just do a blog or write. And suddenly, even people that otherwise probably wouldn't consider themselves a writer, an artist, a designer, in this case now we're talking game maker, have thought, I could do this. Like, it's just there. It's all brand new. I want to just get in on it.
But at the same time, it doesn't trivialize either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, because you're like, I could do this. A monkey could do this. Well, no, it couldn't. It's just that there's just different people. There's different people express themselves differently. That's all it is.
And it's so like, oh God, to be born in like the year 2000, or to be born in like, the late 90s. I mean, you guys are both in the 90s, right?
88.
So yeah, I mean, just to be, crap, man, what a deal. Like, that's just awesome.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's incredible to be around now and to just see this stuff. I feel like the opportunities that, there's a lot of junk, but that's what you'd expect in any situation where the output increases. The percentage of the junk is the same. It's just the quantity is
we complain about too, like when we learn about different engines going free. We talked about that like a week or two ago, about Unity and Source and something else went free. Unreal. They all went free, and we talked about, okay, well, now there's going to be like the saturation, and we're going to have to wade through the shit. But I mean, now that I'm rethinking it, I think it's a good sacrifice, because it's not just people like I mean, there are some people like that, like, let's put out a dumb game.
Well,
it's not just that, it's people making their first game, so it might suck, but we also have to support that and say, hey, you know what, it's not that good, but here's how you can improve. Yeah, and that's what the indie game community should be.
There was a really good quote that I heard on the radio today from a songwriter in Cuba, who wrote a song that the first line is basically, there are two types of people in this world. There are people who build walls, and then there are people who build doors. And so all of these companies who are making their software, basically free to use now, instead of building up walls, they're opening doors. They're building doors so that more people can access and make cooler things.
And then there's companies like Adobe who put up blast walls.
Oh, God. I hate it.
Don't even talk about it.
Now with all these awesome resources that are available for devs, you might have, maybe a dev team getting together, and maybe you want to make a game like Tim here. So the discussion point this week is how to not necessarily build your team, but how to make sure that the reason why your game isn't happening isn't your team, and communication and all that, because
Tales
I
from
haven't
the dev
worked
side.
Exactly, and because we have a dev, and like I haven't made any games, but I've made plenty of movies.
I've attempted to make games,
and
I just haven't finished.
Yeah, exactly.
I get frustrated very easily.
And the biggest thing that I've ever learned while making movies is, if you can't do it, either there are two different directions you can go. You can either spend the time and teach yourself how to do it, and it might not be the best.
I was going to say,
find somebody who can.
There's nothing that you can't learn, to be honest.
Well, right. But there's always going to be somebody who might be better than you.
Yeah.
And recognizing that and bringing them in might be the best decision you can make, depending on their personality.
Yeah. It's all the personality. That's it.
I mean, from our voice acting days, too, I mean, we have experience. Even if you're not a game dev, you might still have experience with this just in working. And Tech and I, in our voice acting days, too, we talked about, I think we talked about this with Tim last time he was on, maybe after the show or something, but working with different directors or other voice actors or writers or animators, we've dealt with so many other projects that I've been cast in have just not happened because people are like, whatever, or they'll drop out, or they'll just lose communication.
Communication, I think, is
or
the biggest
attitude
thing.
And ego, for the love of God.
Definitely.
That's the worst.
Mm-hmm.
Game dev, and we were talking about before the show too, with like AAA companies, it's the egos and things like that kind of get brought into companies. It's the same way when you have your own team, and correct me if I'm wrong since you're the expert, Tim, but when you have your own team, that you need to make sure, even not only, like Tech said, not only to have people who are stronger than you in certain areas, I mean, it's a team effort, that's why they call it a team,
mm-hmm.
but also to have the right team, maybe not necessarily the best team. I can't think off the top of my head who's like an amazing Tom, for instance, Tom, this is just an example, I'm not saying it's true, but Tom Falk is an amazing programmer. He's an awesome game programmer. But he's also an incredibly nice guy, but just for the sake of this, let's say he's a dick.
Yeah.
Who's really egotistical. He might make an amazingly smooth game programming wise, but can you imagine the hurdles that you're going to have to jump over to just compensate for his ego? If that was the case, luckily he is a nice guy. But
triples the difficulty.
And I think that also a really important thing is, and this is going to sound, maybe it's going to sound a little bit egotistical, but making sure that everybody knows their place.
You're a prick.
No, you're right. Yeah, you have to. Whenever you get a group of people together, the easiest way to fail is no clear direction, because they're all going to wander off. It's like herding cats. Everybody's just going to shoot off in a different direction, and you just never.
Mm-hmm.
I think
there was I work with a guy. I was talking to you guys a little bit before the show. I work with a guy. He just started working at my store, and him and a friend are basically planning out and starting development of a game for the Wii U. And they brought in a few people for a team, and recently they've had people coming and going, losing interest and whatnot. But he told me about this one moment where they had two people on like the artistic side of things, working with them for a while, and a lot of the reason why they had a big falling out was because again, I only know the sort of one side of the story, but from what I got from it was these two guys, my coworker and his friend, were basically like the team leads. They were, in charge of the writing and everything and how everything went together. But nobody recognized one of them as being in charge at all.
Yeah.
And as soon as that happens, you lose this team dynamic. And like I've worked on so many productions where you don't know who's in charge, and everybody is sort of like throwing out ideas.
Well, that was my thing too. Like
thrown out
as the team lead, Tim.
Yeah.
I mean, your background is art, correct?
Started in art, yes.
Right. So obviously you're talented in art. That's a big part of your job, I'm assuming, is the art. But I think even more so than that is, as the team lead, your main responsibility as the lead is communication and organization, making sure everyone is on the same page. Am I right?
Yeah. We had a thing that, when I was doing straight production and working, companies where I was basically like a dev director and doing that kind of stuff, I always thought of it this way. Like, I looked at producers, and I know they get like a kind of a rap as, maybe they aren't doing a whole lot, but truly the producer is like the oil in the machine. Like, when it's there and it's working at optimum strength, you kind of don't notice it. You only notice it when it's not there, which is the friction happens and the whole thing tends to fall apart. And it doesn't mean the producer does nothing, but it just means he's sort of in a mode of saying, I want to make sure that this engine is running as optimally as possible. In other words, every single part is at maximum efficiency. And that doesn't mean you're slamming down the gas and just trying to blow the engine out and going at top speed. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with
people out.
Yeah, you make stops, you check the engine, you let things rest, you kind of, you're logical about how things are going to go. And a lot of it just really, and I mean, you guys, honestly, it's just amazing. It's just using common sense. Like, wow, this guy looks tired. Maybe he should go home. Maybe he seems overworked. Maybe we gave him bad direction. Maybe
and you can tell that too, especially when you are having meetings and not everybody is in the same office, and you might have been getting like 7 emails from the same person, and then all of a sudden like their work quality starts going down and dropping.
That's the thing with like the internet too. Like it makes it easier because there's a lot, you're opening up the whole world to you to work with, but at the same time you don't have that. I mean, we're talking about working with people you don't really know, and like your friend, a lot of people drop out, and you have to kind of go on a leap of faith a lot of times in that way. And I'm lucky enough, I mean, to talk about my own experience too, just with Indie Game Riot.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
It's my baby, but I was lucky enough to. I mean, I knew tech from before with other things, but Rev, who isn't on the show right now, but Rev, you all know, who have watched the show, is our third host usually, and I didn't know who he was before.
Neither of us did. Neither of us did at all.
And I actually found him on Reddit, and we got to talking on Skype, and luckily, we meshed on a lot of things. He helped me out. He had a lot of energy, and he was willing to put a lot of time into it. And luckily for me, it's worked out. And I honestly, I'm not. With a lot of it has to do with like same thing that goes with game devs. There's a lot of life in the way of things, and so everyone understands that communication and things like that might suffer from time to time, and I am definitely responsible for that sometimes.
but I would say that going more into, and I know we're sort of veering off games and going more into podcasts,
but it all points to that same
exactly. And like, because when we first started this out, Josh was basically like, contact on Twitter. Twitter's the best way. And I always looked at Twitter as like this sort of public platform to talk to like groups of people. And for me, that was just like, that doesn't sound like a good idea. Like that's sort of public. Should we really be doing that? And then, almost a year later, that's how we get information to each other. And is it the best way? No, but am I
also have to
logging
pick
into
and
the
choose
email?
in that case.
Well, exactly. But at the same time, like being able to get concise communication, because sometimes, Josh and I won't talk like over, like we usually don't. Like we're not in Skype calls.
Well, the nice thing is about something like a tool like Twitter is that it's like boom, boom, boom. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
It's
check this email. Go over here.
Right. Where
people have lives.
Email tends to be a little bit more drawn out sometimes. But you were mentioning like Twitter. It's good in a way because but we can't put all of our stuff on Twitter.
You can't put all your secrets on Twitter.
Right.
Obviously.
So pick and choose. But
I'd say something. You brought up something pretty interesting where, you mentioned getting Rev, and you look at it sort of like, wow, you got fortunate, and I feel the same way. With Joshua Manone, like the people that I'm working with on Boss 101 on the PC console version. But I got another theory that I really been cooking a long time on. This is that there's luck involved, but basically I think a lot of times you just end up attracting the people that you yourself are like. And when I say you are like, it's not the you that you may be thinking you're projecting, it's the real you that is actually there. It's like you'll bring those people towards you, and I found, Joshua and Manone, they have a personality that's just very compatible with mine, and it works really well. They don't have the same personality, but I feel like
it's like a jigsaw piece,
Yeah, when you did Indie Game Riot, I think what you did is you just kind of set up a situation that said, here's this jigsaw puzzle, and here's the piece that we need filled, and that piece, maybe a bunch of people floated by and didn't fit, but they kept going, and then finally Rev comes along, and you're like, this guy just fits. It works.
Yeah. Works. And the other part of it too, talking about attracting personalities, Rev, I think when we were doing our Indiegogo, I think he mentioned this in his little like why I believe in Indie Game Riot thing. And it goes with game devs, video, whatever you want to do. I think when he mentioned when he first heard about the idea, he was like, okay, it's going to be fun, but it's probably not going to last more than a couple months. Here we are, episode 44, full website. We've been to cons. We're becoming an actual entity on the web. Amongst other larger entities, and growing and everything like that. And here we are. And you start after talking about it, and after we did our first show, or after we talking about it, after bringing on tech, after doing our first show, I think he started to realize, and we all started to realize, really, like, hey. Yeah, we are all. First of all, we're pretty halfway decent at this, and but mostly we all are passionate. We want to do our best. We want this to be the best it can be in this situation. And when everyone is sharing that, and we were mentioning about that with like AAA games about different kind of personalities that come into people that believe in the company. I think that's what really cements that whole team vibe together. You bring in the jigsaw pieces, and then your job is to glue it together and frame it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So
exactly. But you also
in the end, ultimately it's the journey. It's great to like have the big successes, which you guys will get, but ultimately you want to be on a nice ride there. You don't want to be like fighting your whole way to your millions, whatever amount you're going for. Like
because you see all these like, and you think about like you just mentioned that like bands, and they're like huge, but they hate each other. Like
checks and balances
stripes,
too.
Or it's like checks
and balances, just like the court system. Even though that's a bad
example,
but you get the idea behind it.
And I feel like that's almost one of the keys to success as well. Like there will be those instances where a team hates each other, but they still suddenly make something great. But to really make something that'll last, I feel like people have to believe not only in the project but believe in each other.
Oh yeah,
because if you don't like, and I've had that problem. Like I worked on productions like for film where I didn't think that one person was doing it right. and it's like I didn't really I knew that I'd have to pull weight in other ways or try to take over, but at the same time I'm like, no, I'm just gonna let this ride out.
Well, you also have to
that happen.
You have to be comfortable in. I think that's one thing that works with when you see people that work well together, whether it be in a Game Riot Boss 101 or whatever. People, I'm guessing you have sat down with your team, Tim, and have had discussions and not completely agreed on everything 100%.
Yeah, I think the deal is
you can check each other that way. You can check each other that way, and then you realize, like, okay, when you have like those different. I mean, we've had arguments on the show about things. I mean, granted, they were more opinion based, but still the same thing. You know, it kind of applies where varying opinions is a good thing as long
the website.
The website, but varying opinion is a good thing as long as you're respectful of each other's opinions.
Oh, yeah, totally. And a lot of times too, I think when you're in a leadership position, and I think Tech mentioned it a little earlier. I think what you do is you kind of have to be willing, and not kind of, you just have to. You have to be willing to say, oh, that's a good idea, and my original idea did suck, so let's do this. Like, you've got to be able to say that, because the thing is, if you decide, let's say you come up with an idea, we're going to go over this waterfall, and everybody's like, dude, that is a horrible idea, I don't want to do this. And you're like, it doesn't matter, I'm in charge, we're doing it. I mean, ultimately, they'll respect the position, and some people might leave the company because they don't want to go over the waterfall, and others will just say, well, he is the leader, we'll just do it.
I think as a leader, if you want to go over the waterfall, it is your decision, but... I mean, obviously listen to other opinions, but if you decide to go over that waterfall, maybe explain why you can. Like, hey, look, these barrels have padding.
Well, you know what I mean? You also do have to consider this too, and this is something. This is so funny. This is something that I learned from
so many metaphors.
This isn't a metaphor. Something that I learned early on when I played PlanetSide, and I played PlanetSide for about 300 hours at this point, which isn't a lot for PlanetSide, but it's a lot for me for a game. When I'm with my outfit, when I was first starting out, I wanted to try out leading the squad, and one of the biggest things that the outfit leader told me was, you have to know when to take other people's advice and know when you're wrong, but you also have to know when to take charge and be like, no, this is what we're doing. I am the leader, and I believe that this is the best option.
And those people need to respect that.
Exactly. And so maybe that waterfall looks like a waterfall to everybody else, but there's
diamonds at the bottom.
But it might be completely different.
Leader, the diamonds are going to kill us.
and obviously, you're not going to learn how to be like a good leader. From listening to this podcast, and some people aren't even built.
Hey, we just changed people's lives.
Yeah, we may affect.
That's true. Yeah,
like one person. That's all it needs.
Yeah, and as bad as it sounds, like not everybody is going to be Peter Jackson. Not everyone's going to be like the director. No one's going to be George Lucas. Like
I thought you were going to say George Bush. I was gonna be like,
the possibility of you becoming George Lucas is so low. And you sort of have to think about it, and in terms of
don't become George Lucas.
Well,
Lucas,
do you
become
like being
yourself.
in charge? Yeah, exactly. Be yourself. And if being yourself means that you end up being, leading people to a common goal, that's good. Or if you find yourself, doing what you do best under the leadership of somebody else, that's also good. I think that especially in America, we idealize leaders, and it's like, oh, everyone needs to be a leader. Leaders are the most important people. But the problem is that
leaders have a huge support group. They're only as good as the people that are
such a small thing. Like you need people under that, and
they're only as good as the team around them.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. There was a great video I saw last week or 2 weeks ago called "Leaders Eat Last," and it's a awesome video that if you find you could just look it up. The guy, it's on on one of those TED type sites.
Yeah.
And it's a short talk. I think it's like 20 minutes. And the guy, he brings up a great point, which is exactly what you guys are saying. Not just America, but all across. It's ingrained into people to give leaders respect, and sort of like basically say, oh, this leader, we appreciate it. We like celebrity. We like people that we feel are going to help us. Yeah, there it is. Leaders eat last. And it's like, and it's one of those things that he brings up this great flip to it that he says, well, there's a reason we do this with leaders, because when the shit hits the fan, everybody turns their head to the leader and says, okay, now that we've been praising you and feeding you and treating you like a god, you're expected to go fight that bear.
That's why I was going to say one more piece of encouragement before we move on. it leads into that, or that leads into this, is that, you know, for those of you who maybe have gone through this whole thing before and have failed, you know, leaders don't always make the right decision, and you know they might, you're like, let's go over the waterfall. Oh shit, there's rocks. You know what I mean? That might happen from time to time. Another characteristic of a good team is say, hey, we might be, you know, maimed, but you know what? We'll heal. We're gonna get back up, and exactly. You know what? We still believe in you. We just need to fix one thing. We learn from our mistakes. You know what I mean? It's a good team. Stick together. Have faith. Try again. And it sounds also cliche, but you know it's true.
And that goes really, really well too, considering, you know, if you're a part of a team, is you have to believe in the team around you. And if you do not honestly believe in them, you need to go to a place that you do. Like, and I know this sounds horrible, but just like if you are stuck in especially in a creative situation like this, where you have full control over yourself, like there are certain situations where it's like, oh, you know, I'm doing this job because I need the money and this is what I need. But if you're in a creative situation and you're just like not working, and it's like, no, go to do something else. Don't waste your time on something that you're like, oh yeah, well it's gonna pay off. It's gonna get me, you know, a lot of money, when it might not even. Like, you have to know where to go, where to look, and if something isn't working, like if this whole thing wasn't working, like with me, like with Indie Game Riot, I was just like, you know, I don't know, maybe I'll do something else, or, you know, you guys can do that or whatever. Like, you have to, you know, time is short. as much as, you know, we always talk about it, it's like, you know, you have the rest of your lives ahead of you, and like, I'm a young guy, and I was just recently thinking, it's like, wow, we might have driverless cars, and I'm only going to be like middle aged. That's going to be awesome. Wow. like only like in my 40s. That's crazy. But it's like, at the same time, like you only have so much time. Don't waste it just at all. Like, do stuff that you want to do, and if you're with people that you hate, drop them, get rid of them, you know. Like,
there's no reason to waste your time. Like, you could go look anywhere. There's those websites that'll say how long do you expect to live, and it'll tell you how many heartbeats you've had, how many you've used, and how many minutes you have. And as soon as you see those kind of numbers,
that's morbid.
Yeah, they're morbid, but they're real. The thing is, nobody thinks like that, because everybody until they're probably a second or two away from death think I'm immortal, and then they suddenly go, oh yeah, shit, I'm not. Like, this is, you know, I get older, you know, things change and stuff happens. But I think that the sooner you realize, not that you're going to die in a morbid way, but that time is short, and that you should make the most of your life as much as possible.
Exactly.
You know, it does change your outlook, because you immediately would, you know, what Tech's saying, you would never take a job where you're just putting in your time. Unless you thought it was getting you to another goal. In other words, doing this because it's heading me in the direction I want to, which is absolutely possible.
That's these people right here, me and that
one. Well, I mean, you know, we all do it. It's like, you know, you can't be a top-level guitarist unless you put in the time to practice. Exactly. Nobody necessarily wants to practice, but they know that's the way to get there. Everything in life is like that. It takes time to get to someplace. You know, you've got to put in the work. So,
people just want to be the next sensation. That the chances of that. Just play the lottery.
Yeah, and you know what the funny thing is too is you look at all those, you know, next sensations. They've put in the work. Like, they have. We talked about this last time.
There's the occasional but Reddit blow up. You know what I mean? Like,
but that's short lived. You know, like Limelight and fame are nothing. Like, they really are. It's especially in a such a connected thing where think about a news story will be big for a week.
Think about Let's Plays. I mean, someone like Markiplier, who blew up on Reddit.
Yep.
To stick with that example, he blew up on Reddit. He came out of nowhere and just exploded.
Yep.
The chances of that happening to you, so think of the millions of people doing Let's Plays.
Yep.
And he is one of those. You know what I mean? People they don't want to put in the time. They see that and they're like, that's going to be me because I'm talented. No,
and that's actually a really good way of
people don't care
to look at stuff. Like, that's a perfect example of, if you want to see, it's like the people who got where they were because of hard work, and the people who got or people who aren't getting where they want to be because they think that it's easy. Like I've seen so many people on YouTube doing the dumbest stuff, but they have millions of views on a video, and then there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people trying to do the exact same thing, and they're even worse. And it's a matter of, you have to bring, and this is going, trying to tie this all back into like leadership and creating your team. You have to bring quality insight to something, or else there's absolutely no reason why you should be doing it. Like when Minecraft got big, everyone making Minecraft videos now are just doing what everybody else has already done. They're not adding anything. And just like with a team, you go into a team, and if you don't bring anything to the table and you don't try to advance yourself along with everybody else, you're going nowhere, and nothing's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, the only person you're ever racing is yourself. I mean, you really aren't against Markiplier or PewDiePie or any of those guys, or even, Marcus Persson or any, we're not racing Gabe Newell to the bank or anything like that.
Exactly.
You really are saying, at the end of the day, if you can go away from your day and go, I did the best I could possibly do today. I put in my best work, and I'm heading towards my goals. You had a pretty great day. That's, not many people can say that, and not many people try to even go in that direction. A lot of people are just like, I'm glad I lived through that day. So you can imagine, to be able to go to bed every day and go like, I did the best I could do, and I'm doing the things I like, whether it's planting strawberries or writing a book or, making billions of dollars in bank, trades. It's like, it doesn't really matter, because all that stuff the external stuff doesn't mean anything. It's the repeatable successes that you can achieve.
Yep. Exactly.
Basically doing things you love. So, I love making games. That's what I'm doing this for. I'm not doing it because I'm thinking, oh yeah, I can't wait till I have, I can go move next to Notch in Hollywood or whatever.
If you have something that you love to do, you should start a riot.
What kind of riot?
The riot on the show that we're starting.
the riot that you start, because this is starting the riot. This week on Starting the Riot, we have probably one of the most cinematically beautiful platforming games you have ever seen, called Ori and the Blind Forest. It is a adventure puzzle platformer sort of game where you basically, I don't know, like you just have to see this thing. Like when I first looked at this game, I thought, wow, this is a cutscene. And then you start playing it, and you're like, wait a second, this isn't a cutscene. You're actually playing this amazingly beautiful game.
Okay. I need to get it off, because all right, for those of you who are listening to the recorded version, like literally minutes before this, we were talking about, and we were just like, okay, we got to start the segment and talk about it. Yeah. You were saying there's something weird about this, and you were comparing it, weird. And it bothers me that you were comparing it to Shine.
No, I was comparing it to Shine only in a way that is the best way that I can compare it to.
Okay, because I mean, just even looking at the gameplay footage, it not only is it not really a platform, I'd say it's more of like an action adventure, but there are platforming aspects to it, but the control scheme and the gameplay and the mechanics are so different from Shine. It just bothers me that you put that out there.
It's more about the feel. Like there's something about this game that it makes me think that there's some like ulterior motive.
Like you're thinking that maybe that you're thinking, because you mentioned maybe it's like a movie made for the Oscars. Like, okay, this is guaranteed to win an award, which is like,
but it has more soul than that. Like, okay. I will say that it definitely has more soul.
So you think maybe they're like pandering?
No, I don't think they're pandering. It feels, I don't know if it feels like too polished or something, but it feels...
What do you mean too polished?
Does it feel like...
You're trying to say like it feels like Ubisoft?
If you don't like it?
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Because there's movies like that like almost...
feels... This game feels like it was made by Ubisoft.
You're a bad person.
Okay, so and I'm saying, like, for those who don't know, Ubisoft made quote indie games,
Yep.
Where what was it? A Child of Light and Valiant Hearts.
Yep. And a few others.
So I get what you're saying. Like maybe it was like made by professionals, but
I mean, but
if it was made by professionals,
was AAA, and
right?
And I can definitely see that. But there's, I don't know what it is. There's something.
How can you say it's
that
too
just
polished?
That doesn't sit with me.
How can you say?
Well, you're just saying. I think maybe like I feel like
purely opinion. It's purely opinion. Like this game is freaking like this game changed the way that I look at certain games. Like seriously, like I saw this game and I'm like, what? What?
I don't know what is bothering you about it. Is what it's like this game has changed my life.
No, it hasn't. No, it's changed my perspective, just because of.
I was gonna say maybe you just feel like it's a good game. Maybe it didn't like knock you out of your socks like a 9 out of 10 or something like that. And you're feeling bad because you're giving it an 8. Like,
no, it's
okay if you have like. I would say that's okay, but you're bringing up stuff.
No, I don't know what it is, dude. Like,
okay, well, before you go into it, just real quick, go into like the basic info, like the dev name and all.
Say the basics. Break it
down. So this was made by a company called Moon Studios. This is I believe this is their second game. This game is if I'm not mistaken, published by Microsoft Studios or Microsoft Game Studios, and it's for the Xbox One and PC. And then also on the 360, I believe. This is
maybe that's why because maybe it feels like a console game. Like it feels like something. Maybe it feels like something that was made specifically for PSN or Xbox Live.
But it has. It's
even though it's
more.
I don't know. Okay, and also. I keep jumping into this because it just bothers me that you're saying these. And also, Preposterone in the chat, he said that. Just either validate this or not. Maybe they began with a certain idea and then transitioned into another thing, and that you're just picking up on that. Like, is
that might be it? I mean, like mechanically, it's solid. Story wise, it's solid. Visually, it's solid, and it does.
Do you think maybe it feels safe.
You know that. I think that might be it. It feels because even on their website, when you look at their website, they're basically like, this game is a Metroidvania game. And as soon as you start boxing yourself in like that, I feel like you've
limited yourself.
You limit yourself a lot. Mind you, that's probably. I don't think that it's that short-sighted.
Okay, now I'm starting to get it a little bit. Okay, so like maybe they're playing a little bit safe where like. There's nothing. I mean, other than being beautiful, other than being a very good game, maybe it's nothing that's like you haven't seen before necessarily.
It's. I think the reason why I brought up Shine is because it's sort of like a mixture of Limbo meets Knit Stories to me.
Yeah, it looks very English to me.
Yeah, well, mostly because I know we talked about Knit Stories. I think on like the first episode. With the sort of, like relatively non-linear way you go about things in the Metroidvania-esque style, and like with the sort of Limbo, like the way that things fill the screen. Like I felt maybe that's it. Maybe I feel like this game is the only thing that it's bringing to the table new for me is that it looks beautiful and it's just really,
I think there's
really,
some cool.
smooth.
I mean, it is very well put together.
Yes.
It's very beautiful. And I still think there's some cool mechanics in this. I mean, just looking at the gameplay, you see some of the platforming aspects of.
That's gorgeous.
You have some of like the there's like a specific pattern you have to platform in. You're seeing it right now, and there's kind of a cool like obstacle thing going on with I don't know with lasers. I'm not really sure. But maybe I think there's still enough in this to differentiate itself. I can kind of
exactly.
I kind of get a art wise. I'm kind of getting a what's that? What's that one where we have a lot of voice actor friends in it?
Stick It to the Man?
No, not that one.
God,
what is it? The one that was like having all that like. They had like so many bad luck issues going on, but they're a very popular game. I cannot think of.
I can't remember.
Well, anyway, I think there's a lot of, like, it's reminding us, and you specifically, a lot of other games, and you feel like it's playing it safe because there's not a whole lot that is, like, you're like, oh, wow, this is blowing my mind. It's just a solid game.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe what it is.
How did you feel about the movie Avatar?
You know,
everything was good except for the writing.
Everything, yeah.
Because that was like...
The movie, I mean, that was a stolen plot.
Maybe very specific rules of movie making.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't
I think
taking huge risks in certain aspects. The tech was.
Yeah.
The storytelling was very straightforward. Like
maybe it's something I like. Obviously, this is like this doesn't have anything to do with like the actual merits of the game. It's like, you know, just getting this out there. The game's good. Go check it out. Like, seriously, like don't.
Yeah,
think
this sounds like we're doing negative. Like this game is an excellent game.
Game looks incredible.
This is all like personal, like personally me. Like maybe it's the story. Maybe it's acting like it's bigger than it is.
I think I think maybe the one thing I'm getting, as far as like your kind of feeling goes, is. A lot of times we see, a lot of times we see indie games and we're like, okay, this is like the developer's soul put into this.
Yeah.
This seems like, here's a team, let's make a cool game.
Yeah.
Like there's
nothing wrong with that.
No.
I mean, this game is
but it's not
awesome.
what we're used to as far as like the like blowing our minds, you know?
Yeah. Do you think maybe that they weren't like laying in bed awake since they were 10 years old waiting to make this game? Or do you think one day they sat down last summer and said, let's sketch out a good game?
I think they know that they're good, and I think they know they're like, okay, you know what? We're good at making games. Let's make a game.
Yeah. And it is especially considering like games that are coming out now that I would almost consider are not really games, they're just visual novels. This is a game. And but yeah, I think that's what it is. It feels like a Ubisoft title. I think that's what it is. And maybe your mileage may vary, but there's something about like the overarching, like, oh, you know, you're super important and you have to save this thing, but at the same time it's just like, no, I don't. Whatever. I'm, you know, like I don't feel. It didn't do a lot to engage me.
Did you finish it?
No. It was just like it didn't. It's sort of. I feel like maybe it's just me, but it felt like it was sort of just like, yeah, here are things in a game. Like these are game things, and now you have to do those game things to finish this game plot, and. Does that Josh, do you see where I'm going with that?
That whole thing gray boxed, and then I think you'll see what you're talking about, which is it's a pretty straightforward platformer.
It is,
but the rapping is so fantastic.
Yeah, it's basically like any. But I don't want to say that it's basically any platformer you've ever played, because, you know, 2D platformers have been done, but it's like we've seen so many good 2D platformers come out that are breaking the mold, and this one is no exception to that. Like visually speaking, like it blew my mind, and then I got into it and it just sort of went downhill from there.
So maybe the visuals set up this expectation of like this game is going to be like someone's soul being.
You know what it is? I felt
a
little bit trapped playing this game.
Well, I mean, did you think you're going to be playing the next Ico or something? Like,
no. Well, see, I didn't like Ico.
Well, okay, but that's actually something talk about a visually talk about a visually stunning game. But that game, I mean, is that really considered indie?
Yeah.
But okay, well, say that game. That game, whether you liked it or not, was very unique.
Yeah.
You know, that's not something that you see all the time. Whereas this is platforming. Action.
It does it well. It does do.
And
what
again in the chat saying that it's not engaging.
Yeah, and I think that is something that I definitely look for personally in a game.
I think we just are so used to such a personal experience that
that's
we
true.
don't always look. It's either like with a lot of indie games, it's either a personal experience or it's a satire. You know what I mean? This is just like Tim was saying, straightforward.
Yeah, it's solid game making here. It's not. They're not.
It looks like maybe it was done by a college student for a class.
Yeah.
It's a very good college student. No, I mean, like, I'm saying, like, in the fact that, like, they had to make a game, they were forced to make a game.
Yeah, exactly.
And they did it well. You know, they got an A++. So, I don't know. Maybe we should just leave it at that.
Yeah, exactly.
By no means, again, just to reiterate, by no means are we saying do not buy this game. This game is fantastic.
It's amazing. It's great.
It's just, you know,
it's a game.
Personal opinions.
Yeah, exactly.
Personal opinions, and go buy the game just to support the
Yeah, definitely. Again, that was it's by Moon Studios. You can check it out at oriandtheblindforest.com, where you can figure out all of that sort of stuff. And I can't.
How much is it?
I'm actually trying to figure that out right now. $19.99, which is a little bit. I mean, I don't want to say it's steep because it is like you can tell that the devs like knew what they were doing with this game.
Right.
Like
on their website, their website. I keep harping on it. But,
I don't like it.
I mean, they made it over 4 years.
Yep.
I mean, so they put time and energy into this.
They did.
And I feel bad saying like they didn't put passion into this because I'm sure they did. It just doesn't come across. And they are inspired by some of the older 8-bit and 16-bit games, and from the good old days, I guess. It says on their website. So I mean, they have. They other than the art, they just made. I think they just concentrated on making.
Maybe the story didn't do it for me. Maybe the characters just didn't click in my head, and maybe they're like clicking with other people. But like in terms of, they also talk about influence from like Studio Ghibli and like The Lion King and The Iron Giant, and I get that, but. Maybe maybe that's it, because I don't like Studio Ghibli films.
How far did you get into this game?
He played for 2 minutes.
No,
that's what he did with.
I gave it a good like hour or two, in two different play sessions.
Because I mean, you're talking about the story. I feel like again, this is maybe just the art tricking me into this, but it looks like something that should enchant you.
Yeah.
I think I realized it.
So I think we've been harping on this. We've been harping on this, and
yeah, exactly.
I think go check out the game.
Check
out the game. Tell us what your opinion is.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe you can explain it better, or maybe you'll just completely disagree. I don't know.
Again, this is only personal opinion. I still think the game is really good. It just wasn't for me.
Yeah. You know what is for you? You could probably wash away your sorrows at the Peep Show.
Please give all your attention to Early Access.
And this week on Peep Show, have we got a show to peep? Stupidest intro I've ever done.
44 episode.
44 episodes. Congratulations, me. I'm going to look back on this one and be like, whoa, you win.
It's all
but anyway,
from here.
Yeah. This week we have a game called StarCrawlers. StarCrawlers is a... If you remember, the game that this is going to connect to me with is a game called... Eye of the Beholder for the SNES.
Wow.
And do you remember that game?
Dude, I played Eye of the Beholder. Yeah, I do.
Eye of the Beholder. And mind you, I did not like this game because I was like, I don't know how old. I was probably like 8 or 9. And so that game was hard for me and a little bit scary, to be honest. It was made for adults, or teenagers at least. But that game, it basically was a very standard, not standard, but it was like the original kind of dungeon crawler. You literally move one square at a time, forward, turn, left, left, right, backward, and as you're moving one square at a time, you come across enemies and you fight them on a turn basis. That's what this game is. StarCrawlers, except this place, instead of some sort of Dungeons and Dragons realm, it's like a sci-fi. taking place in a basically, I guess you could call it a space station or a spaceship. I'm not really entirely sure, to be honest. And you're coming across the enemies that way.
Yeah.
One thing that adds upon, like with some of those old games like Eye of the Beholder, wasn't a whole lot of interactivity. It was just like move and fight, maybe pick up objects here and there. This has more interactivity. You know, there's puzzles, there's things in the environment that you can interact with, pick up, things like that. There's a lot more immersion and story to this. It's not just go and fight things.
Yeah, it's sort of like the original Baldur's Gate.
Right. And it is made by Juggernaut. Was it Juggernaut Games or Studios? Crap. See, I knew it was
Juggernaut Games.
Thank you. Juggernaut Games, currently $19.99. It is early access.
This game was kickstarted, right?
Yes.
It's either this one or another one. I believe it. I don't remember.
Well,
it could have been another one.
Either way, it's early access. So this is a game, again, as with any early access. Reminder, you are paying for the game as is. It's a plus if they update it. Of course, they say they're going to update it. There's never any promises, but most of the time they do. They're updating with more maps, more objects, more monsters, things like that, or additional. They're expanding it constantly.
Yeah, and they're also planning for a chapter 2 of the main campaign. So there is sort of like a beginning and end to the main campaign that you can play, but there's more coming with that as well. It looks like they update like maybe once or twice a week, which is kind of crazy.
That's a good update.
Yeah, that's a great update.
Also, tech.
Yes,
because I can't switch away from this video in the live stream, or else it'll show random crap.
All right. No problem.
Can you? First of all, I don't know if we linked Ori and the Blind Forest. If we didn't, link it in the chat, and also link this, please.
No problem.
But anyway, so yeah, how? I mean, did you? I mean, Tim, you've played games like this.
Yeah, I played. Well, I think you hold on my Amiga. That's how long ago that was.
You have an Amiga. Oh, you had. Anyway.
Wow. Yeah, I mean SNES, all those classic games. What's your take on this? I mean, a lot of people are very purist in these kinds of games, and this is obviously very. I mean, other than the graphics and maybe some interactivity.
I played like Bard's Tale and some of the old SSI games were all
Bard's
like
Tale, man. Sorry, that's a game they remade, isn't it?
Yeah, they recently remade. I mean, it was. I
think I played for the PS2.
Downish. The old one was like this. I mean, you basically walk forward, and the old Wizardries were all like this. I mean, there's a lot of games. The actual structure is very D&D paper. I mean, it's very walk forward, see if there's an encounter, walk forward, see if everywhere you go, you click everything to see. There's a lever. Looks like the thing in the older games. I mean, now everything looks so freaking dope that you can't. You really do have to click a lot of stuff, because before it'd be like, the only guy drew one sprite lever. You just like, that has to be the thing I'm doing. Like now it's like you're clicking like King's Quest. You're clicking on every little pixel.
Yeah, everything. Yeah.
Every little that microphone do something. I don't know. Does that switch do something? I don't know.
Right.
I mean, for me, when you had the link for this game and I didn't know anything more about it than it was linked, and I saw it before I saw a video, I imagined it was a side game where you kind of did these. You had the paper map sort of thing, but then you did these sort of encounters on a battlefield, and then it moved to the map, and then it came back to this. I didn't realize it was sort of a dungeon explorer type game. It looks cool. Total side note. So I'm watching this playthrough here, and when I was watching Ori and the Blind Forest, I thought, man, Ori and the Blind Forest has some weird trees growing in front of everything.
No.
These weird,
that's the overlay.
This game got those weird bushes too. I realized you've got like an audience in there.
Yeah, we have an overlay that goes over our videos.
Great. At first I was like, man, Ori and the Blind Forest has this weird growth.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah. I think that.
Let me pose a question.
Okay.
So, I mean, with the reason I think that games did this back in the day, this whole like block by block, I think it's less intensive.
Absolutely.
So, do you think that it was necessary for this game to do that, or are they just simply doing this purely based on nostalgia, purely based on I can never think of the word.
I mean, again, my opinion, I don't know that this is true. It depends on really the team size and who they're comprised of. If it's guys that were like, hey man, I love Bard's I love all these old games.
Is a continuous walking cycle that much more work? I mean, as a game dev, I don't know.
You think about go ahead, Tech. You were going to say
something. There are two possibilities with why. Or there are two different paths that they could have seen this as, and I think the path that they took makes this more reasonable as a game mechanic. It does like Tim, exactly what you said. It feels like D&D, like at least the combat of D&D and going through the world and the different dungeons and going through everything. It definitely feels like that, and they could have either done it like they did, where then there are the encounters and every single block is a different thing with different stuff around it, or they could have done it like that and just locked. I lost my thought. Just locked it in and be like, oh yeah, this is what we're doing because that's how they did it. We're just gonna do cut and dry. Like, this is how they did it. This is how we're gonna do it. And I feel like it's there in spirit. I think that the old school feel of it is there, for nostalgic reasons, but also sort of in the spirit of games like that we don't see anymore. And although personally I'm not that crazy about it, I think that, if the combat were different and they handled it differently, I think that there'd be no excuse to not have a continuous walking cycle. But the way that they handled the combat with, how they laid out the entire game is...
So you think it works better with the mechanic then?
I think that it is very deliberate, and it isn't just a, hey guys, look, we made an old game.
So what do you think? 'Cause one thing, again, I was like 8 or 9 years old, so my attention span was limited. But one thing that, other than being hard and kind of creepy for me as a elementary school kid, was that when you're moving block by block, it was very slow, and especially when you get the turn-based combat. Do you think that hinders this game, or do you think that was just? Do you think with people's attention spans, or do you think that
what it is? Actually, it is. This is not a game for everybody, and I would argue that this isn't even really a game for me. This is a game for a relatively specific type of person, whether that is somebody who is looking for the nostalgia of older style games, or the D&D style, or someone who is really invested in the story that they're trying to put forward, because everyone has that one monotonous, boring game that they just love. And
Civilization.
Yeah, exactly. Like people are super into Civilization. I just can't see someone playing Civilization, but then I'll pop in, another RTS and play it for literally 8 hours at a time, and then go eat something and play
endless Legend.
Exactly. There are
Riot of the Year winner 2014.
Well, when you make a game, the more, from a developer side, the more you know where the player's always going to be, the easier it is to make an experience. In other words, if the guy's if you know he's always in the center of that tile, you could always predict, if we want something scary to happen or an encounter to happen, or exactly where your art assets have to be and all this stuff. Yeah. And I'm not saying that's what these guys necessarily thought, but those old games did it because you were controlling the player.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There is a for some reason this game sort of reminds me of that game that we talked about early on called Dead Cyborg.
Well, I think that's more of the aesthetic of it.
Yeah, it's the aesthetic, but it's also but that sort of plays into it, because this is a dungeon crawly sort of game, and it is very tight hallways and looking in very specific ways, to the point where I almost think why couldn't you let someone free roam and then have the tile count, or how many steps or how many blocks you go through, or how many rooms you complete to trigger another encounter, and then the encounter goes into turn-based combat, because that's a completely viable option. And you could do that, and that's where it's hard. it's really hard. And I know I'm being like really critical.
Yeah, well, I think again, both of these games so far is very like different gamers, different
exactly.
Opinions, so
yeah,
your style of play and all that sort of stuff. So I mean, if you are not into turn-based combat, if you're not into those classic dungeon crawlers, and we're probably not the game for you. But super
nitpicking on just like bare mechanics here. Like
this game,
it works.
I mean, especially talking about, I'm always impressed. I mean, I'm almost forgetting that this is early access. This is a peep show.
Oh, yeah.
Always impressed when you look at a game and you forget that it's early access. You're like, oh my god, this isn't even finished yet, according to the developer. I mean, and you still have all this. Yeah, so I mean, it's if other than the fact that if you don't have the attention span for that kind of game. Other than that, this is a game that I think you should go support.
The lore and the story behind this game is definitely one of the best things about this.
Yeah.
Because like you are playing basically a mercenary who's getting paid to be like, hey, go do this, go do that. You're the only person who's like willing enough to like go down into the depths and deal with this sort of shit. And it's like that's just cool, It's like, who doesn't want to be like that super tough guy that does all the dirty work and in the movies, like the Doom movie, like that's another thing. It sort of feels like the Doom movie. That's awesome. If you guys ever saw that.
Yeah. I actually enjoyed that. It's like that's a secret. That's like that's like one of those guilty pleasure movie. Yeah, thank you. Well, like I said, go depending on your kind of game. Do your due diligence, research. Yeah. I mean, you see what we have to say about it, but do more. And if you feel like you are the kind of player to play this game, definitely go support it. $20 on Steam. Good job, Juggernaut Games. You said it was games.
Yes.
Keep up the good job. Keep up your update schedule. I love when developers are constantly updating because that just creates more faith from the player's perspective for your project. And you know what I have faith in?
What?
Free fun.
And this week on Free Fun, we have a game that is a little game with a very tiny resolution, meaning pixels, packed with
you meant pixels?
Tons of content. What?
You sure you meant pixels?
Did I not say pixels?
Freudian slips.
You play as a this is a point and click detective, crime solving game where you take the role of a
Wait, did you say the title yet?
The game is called The Darkside Detective.
I'm glad you knew that.
Sorry about that.
Instead of having to look off to the side.
Darkside.
No. This is where the video is. This is where the game is. I'm actually playing it right now. And you go around trying to you go around. It's point and click. You interact with people. You ask them questions. You interact with the environment. You try to find clues. That'll sort of mention things to you in the little blurbs if you find it and click on it, sort of like what we were talking about in the last segment, to figure out, to basically solve these cases and help these people.
Link it.
What's that?
Link it.
Oh no, I'm playing it.
I can link it.
I can link that. Link that into the chat because everybody in the chat can now play it. Are you on the live chat yet, listener? There.
I don't know.
It is very text heavy, very much in the vein of older.
It's like remember how you like not text based, because text based you would have to input commands, but it's very very point and clicky.
Yeah, it is very point and click, but it's not. It's almost not King's Questy, but it's sort of like older, like Sierra LucasArts, but it isn't as deep as that. It's more, it is.
What are you talking about? A free game too, so
that is true. It is a free game. Sorry, I just yelled into my microphone there. And there's just
Clock
so
Tower?
much. What's that?
Clock Tower.
Yeah, there is. It's.
Someone said that in the chat. I actually don't know Clock Tower
I don't know.
very well.
It's a cool game if you like solving mysteries, and it is the story definitely, you know, it expands itself. Wow, I can't talk right now. Expands itself as you play it. It is very, very deep. You've got these really.
I think the story. I personally, I love point and click games.
Yeah,
I think the story in itself is enough. I mean, you're, again, talking about a free game, so keep that in mind.
Yeah.
And I think the story is really what's most intriguing. It also catches your eye because, I mean, you're talking about low resolution.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's still incredibly detailed. Again, think gods will be watching. And you know, the people didn't even have faces, just like in this game. But at the same time, the environment is so like, wow, I can't do that with pixels.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And there's another thing. What I was talking about before we started it. It feels very real. Like it doesn't feel like you're in some like, you know, fantasy world where you're like this hotshot detective. Like you actually feel it's like you're a regular person and these are regular people that had things happen to them. Not giving anything away in the story. And it's like and you know, you have to help them any way you can. And I think some of the brilliance of this game is the writing is really good, but the way you like go about everything in the order that you do, like this is going to play differently for a lot of different people.
Sure.
Because some people are like, oh, I want to talk to as many people as I can and figure out, you know, what they're saying and who I can help. And then there are going to be the other people who are like, oh, where does this door go? Oh, can I mix this with that, or what will I need this item for down the road? And then all of a sudden you have this like huge inventory of stuff and you have no idea what to do. And this game really makes you use your brain.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you miss something to click on, that you might get stuck. But I think that's true for a lot of point and click. One thing too, I mean, talking about it's very texty. When you're talking to people, it does give you multiple options a lot of times to talk to, you know, different options. It's a little tropey, I think.
A little bit. But that sort of like works with it. Like it's not this is a free game.
Well, I and we say that too. It bothers me. I mean, I say it all the time, but because you want to know, like, you know, I say that because I want you to know that you're getting a lot for nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
And you should appreciate that. But a lot of times when we say it, we make it like, well, for a free game, I guess it's good, but otherwise it wouldn't be. No, this game is good. Okay, it's. I'm just saying that you're paying nothing and you're getting quality. So go support them. Is what I'm saying with that. You know, I don't want it to take away from the game and what. Yeah,
and there is it is designed very well. Like it is there are things that you find and the way that it's written, it's sort of like, you know, egging you on, but it just gives you just enough information to get your, you know, mind bending. It's like, oh, maybe I need to find this item and then I can combine them and figure out the next step of the puzzle, and then you do that and you're like, this is the next step, but I don't know where to go from here. Dang it, I need to backtrack and figure out what I missed. And it's just it's a well designed, you know, point and click mystery game, and you know, it does what it does very well.
Exactly.
I mean, there's not much more.
Yeah, no. Definitely. I mean, it's very talk about straightforward.
What
game.
about that strange bush that's growing in the front of the house?
Yeah, I was gonna say. I was gonna bring that up. I was like, that is again our overlay. Don't worry, no bushes are encroaching upon. I've thought about. I mean, it was a cool idea at the time, but I thought about, is it really that intrusive? I don't know. We'll think about it. Tell us if you're watching this. Tell us if you think the overlay is intrusive.
Now that could be the thing that when you get shown on CNN, everybody's going to know it's your show. Then
yeah, exactly.
I'm just going to have like everything like all over the place.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I mean, Josh Mother.
Yeah, but you know what else is over everything, Josh?
Over
and Tim's laughing, so you know it's real.
You know this is a transition.
Yeah,
it's
a transition is happening. Here we go.
The end of the show is over everything because it's over. Yeah. This is the end of the show. All good things must come to an end. First of all, thank you, Tim, for filling in for Rev as he could not be here. It is always great having you on. Yeah. Good luck.
And it's officially been the you still have yet to meet him.
Yeah.
Well, we've never seen some parties together, so you guys could figure it out.
Yeah.
You can come to you can come all the way to Too Many Games outside of Philly, and
yeah, which is something that Josh and I are talking about going to.
Yeah.
Are you guys going to the Newgrounds thing?
I am. Yes.
Okay.
Where's that?
I was thinking I might. There was a point where we were going to go to that.
Oh, Tech actually wasn't invited.
What?
Tech wasn't invited.
You can do a +1.
Can you? I don't know. Yeah.
I don't think they're going to care.
Well, yeah. No, Tom. It's because of my username. You haven't been on Newgrounds like
No.
Tom invited me to basically Newgrounds birthday party, and Tim was on that list as well. But it's basically people who have been around the community and have contributed. I've done like the voice acting contest and plus Indie Game Riot. But anyway, neither here nor there. End of the show. Yeah, end of the show. If you want to support, if you like what we're doing, you want to help us help indie games in the community, all that sort of stuff. We mentioned this earlier. We have a Patreon. If you can support us with, it's a monthly thing, but you can also always do it just one time if you want to. Helps us grow the show. We have a lot of really cool goals, and any contribution that you can make will help us get there faster. So thank you so much for even thinking about doing it. If you are a game dev or have anything to do with game development or know someone who does, please contact us. We could feature you. You never know, or at the very least, we could write an article, something. We love giving exposure to. I sound like a toddler. Exposure to exposure to your games, and we love helping out the indie game community. So you can contact us by, first of all, if you're watching a recorded version, you can always chat with us live on hitbox.tv/JoshandYa. We do a live show 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time every Friday, around 9:30 usually. Or check out the recorded videos on IndieGameRiot.com. You can follow us on Twitter at IGR Podcast or Facebook.com/IGR Podcast, or contact at IndieGameRiot.com is our email. You can just email us, which redundantly, I'm going to say our website is IndieGameRiot.com. Any last words?
Other than that, Tim, thank you for being on the show.
Good luck with Boss 101.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Yes, and we will put that in our curator list.
Yeah,
we have
we're
curators on Steam. Go look at that.
Just as a full disclosure, Tim isn't paying us.
He can if he wants to.
Believe me.
Yeah, but then we have to tell him that we're not paying us.
They're not paying me, nor am I paying them.
Yeah. We're all poor. So I'll see you in the homeless soup kitchen after the show, and
revival meeting.
Say goodbye.
See you next time, guys.
Bye.
Toodles.